Okay, this is question 11 and this is a Pythagoras theorem question. I know that because I've got a right angled triangle. I can see that it's got a right angle there, and I'm being given two of the sides, and here I'm being asked to calculate the length of AB. A to B is the missing side. Now it's also asking me to give my answer correct to one decimal place, which means I'm likely to be having to use a calculator to do this piece of work. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is to write down all of the sides that I have been given. I've been told one side is 14, one is 9, and I've got a missing side which I'll call x. Now with Pythagoras' theorem, what you need to do is to remember to square each of those sides. Okay, so I'm going to square all of the sides. Now I need to square 14, so I've got two ways I can do that. I can either type in 14 and times it by itself, so times by 14, which gives me 196, or I can use my squared button, which is 14 times by, or 14 squared, that's the x with a little 2 on it. Okay, which also gets me 196. But 9 squared I happen to know is 81, but you can use your calculator to do that as well. Now, at this stage, I have got a choice. I can either add together the 196 and the 81, or I can subtract them. The choice that you have to make depends upon what side is missing. I know that the longest side is missing. The longest side is always the side opposite the right angle. So adding these squared numbers together will create a longer side for me. If it happened to be that the 14 was over here, I would want to create a smaller side, therefore subtraction would be appropriate. I'm going to add these two sides, these square numbers together, because I want to create the longer side. So if I pick up my calculator, 196 plus 81 gets me 277, so I know x squared is 277. Now it's quite obvious to me that this side here cannot be 277 centimeters long, given that that's 14 and that's 9. So I need to remember to do one final thing, which is I need to find the square root of this 277. If I press the square root of my answer, so I've literally done square root and press the answer button, that gives me square root 277. I press my SD button and it gets me an answer of 16 point something out on the screen. I'm going to write all of that down so we can see precisely what's appeared on my screen. There's also an advantage in writing it all out, because at this stage, if I do the rounding exercise incorrectly, I can at least pick up all of my method marks up to this point here. So it asks me to round it to one decimal place, which means I need to consider not just the first number after the decimal point, but the second one. It's the second number after the decimal point that tells me that in fact this should not round up but stay the same, because that 4 would need to be 5 or above to make something round up. So x is 16.6, correct to one decimal place.